The foil is about to have a really bad day. The electricity from the battery rushes through the foil, but the middle is so thin it can't handle the current. It's like trying to push a highway's worth of traffic through a single-lane road. The resistance creates intense.
Heck.
Lord Pounceloth is now live, streaming MORDHAU, playing games and later doing some work in the meantime.
Alright, good. Alright, let's go. Oh, lag. That's fun. Hit.
Probably not. Yes, no, probably not.
Who lost this one? Backstick. Oh no. What is this? Oh my god. Alright. Oh my lord. I can't believe he just killed me with a... Oh, I thought he killed me with a rock. Life. Life. Demons. For mate. Windows stun. What the hell's Pendle stun? 3, 2, 1. Alright, let's go. A drink. Sorry. For Belich from GTA 4. Got him. Good job. Oh. Get 30 HP. Kill me. That rhymes. What the fuck? Interesting. Oh, the abuser. I'm dead. He should have begged. Russian, please. It's Rust server. I will tell you why. One second. There you go. Change something. Da 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 da. Whoa, what the fuck? That big guy? Nice. And again. Fuck me. I don't mean that. Wait.
Heat, and within seconds, that little bow tie bursts
I
into
like this
flames.
guy,
You've
this
got maybe
chill
2
dude.
seconds before it burns out, so have your tinder ready. Dry leaves, paper, anything that catches fast. Number 5, baking soda. That little orange box sitting in the back of your kitchen cabinet might be the reason your house doesn't burn down one day. Grease fires are one of the most common and dangerous types of house fires, and almost everyone's first instinct is to throw water on it. That is the single worst thing you can do. When water hits a grease fire, it instantly flash boils into steam. That steam expands and explodes outward, carrying burning oil with it. In a split second, a small pan fire becomes a fireball that engulfs your entire stove, your cabinets, and your kitchen. Instead, turn off the heat, grab your box of baking soda, and dump it directly on the flames. Baking soda, or sodium bicarbonate, releases carbon dioxide gas when it gets hot. Carbon dioxide is heavier than air and suffocates fire by cutting off the oxygen it needs to keep burning. The flames die almost instantly. One box of baking soda costs about $1. The average kitchen fire causes over $30,000 in damage, and that's not counting whether you make it out. Number 4, a magnet. magazine.
Baking
A
soda
rolled-up
is
magazine
amazing.
can save a broken arm, not metaphorically,
amazing,
literally.
amazing.
During the 2010 Haiti earthquake, medical teams on the ground ran out of splints almost immediately, so doctors started grabbing whatever they could find, cardboard, newspapers, and magazines, and it worked. When you roll a magazine up
honestly,
tight,
baking
it becomes
soda is
surprisingly rigid. That's exactly
great.
what a broken bone needs, something that keeps it from moving. To use it, you roll the magazine into a tube, place it alongside the injured limb, and then secure it tightly with tape, a belt, or strips of a torn shirt. The thicker the magazine, the better the splint. A copy of Vogue is basically a medical device at this point. Crucially, you splint the limb exactly as you find it. Never try to straighten a broken bone. Moving it can puncture blood vessels or cause permanent nerve damage. Just lock it in place. After you apply the splint,
Oof, I
check
didn't mean
the
to hit
person's
that.
fingers or toes. If they go numb or turn blue, the splint is too tight and cutting off circulation. Loosen it immediately. Number 3, a liter of light. Grab a clear plastic bottle, fill it with water, add a tiny splash of bleach. That's the whole recipe. Now, you cut a hole in the roof of a dark shed or shelter, just big enough for the bottle to fit in. Half the bottle sticks up above the roof and half hangs down inside the room. During the day, that bottle will produce the same amount of light as a 50 to 60 watt light bulb. Not a candle, not a flashlight, a full light bulb. Sunlight enters the top of the bottle, and the water inside refracts and scatters that light in every direction, illuminating the entire room. The splash of bleach is just there to keep algae from growing inside the water and making it cloudy. This wasn't invented in a government lab. It was figured out by people living in the tin roof slums of the Philippines who had no electricity. They called it isang litrong liwanag, which means a liter of light. They built these in thousands of homes, lighting them up for free every single day with nothing but a bottle and tap water. Number 2, the
That
Crisco
works.
candle. A tub of Crisco shortening, that white greasy stuff in your kitchen cabinet that you've probably never touched. Stick a wick in the middle of it, and you've just created a candle that can burn for up to 45 days straight. That is a month and a half of continuous light and heat. Crisco is just solidified vegetable oil, and oil has been used as fuel for lamps for thousands of years. A regular candle burns for maybe 40 hours. A big 3-pound tub of Crisco burns for over 1,000 hours. That's the difference between surviving a week-long blackout and a month-long one. The wick can be anything cotton. A strip from an old t-shirt works perfectly. A twisted-up paper towel works in a pinch. Even a shoelace will do the job. Just poke it down into the center of the Crisco, leave half an inch sticking out the top, and light it. Like any open flame, don't leave it unattended. But an unopened tub lasts for years on the shelf. Buy one, throw it in a cabinet, and forget about it until the power goes out for a week, and suddenly you're the smartest person on your block. Number 1, a spare car tire. Most people have one sitting in their trunk right now, and have never once thought about it as a survival tool, but it might be the most powerful SOS signal you can create with your bare hands. Here's the thing about rubber. It does not want to burn, but once it catches, it is basically unstoppable. A burning tire produces a massive column of thick black smoke, not a little wisp of campfire puff. A dark, toxic tower of smoke that can be seen for miles away. Search and rescue pilots are trained to look for exactly this kind of signal. It's an unambiguous sign of human trouble. Getting it started is the hard part. You'll need an accelerant to get it going. A small amount of gasoline from your car's tank or some motor oil poured on the tire is enough. Light it and get back. The smoke from a burning tire is genuinely poisonous, so once it's lit, stay upwind, far upwind. While a flare gun is great for a few seconds, a tire will keep blazing and pumping out that unmissable signal long enough for a rescue team to spot you and figure out your position. That spare in your trunk is a last resort rescue beacon that never runs out of batteries. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them. Let's get right into it. Number 10, the handshake. That handshake your doctor gives you when you walk in isn't just being polite. It's a test, and you're already being graded before you even sit down. Doctors are trained to read every single detail. A weak, limp grip is one of the first physical signs of depression. Your brain chemistry can affect muscle tone, and your body broadcasts it through your hand. A sweaty palm is your nervous system screaming anxiety before you've said a single word. Your body is already in fight or flight mode over a handshake. Some people grip too hard and hold on too long, way past the normal 1 or 2 seconds. Doctors flag this as a possible sign of frontal lobe disinhibition. It's a fancy way of saying the part of your brain that controls social boundaries isn't working right. It can show up in early
The wild
dementia
Swablu
or
appears
some
captured using
neurological
poke
conditions.
catch.
The
Winners
person
revealed in
holding on
90s.
doesn't even realize they're doing it. Then there's the person who refuses the handshake entirely. Not because they're a germaphobe, but because physical contact from a stranger feels genuinely threatening. That level of social withdrawal can point towards severe anxiety, trauma responses, or early psychosis. The doctor notes it, moves on, and smiles like nothing happened, because for them, the test is already done. Number 9, the waiting room. The test starts before you even walk through the door.
Shit.
While you're sitting there scrolling on your phone, someone
I'm
is taking
rusty.
notes.
I'm
Receptionists in mental
rusty,
health
rusty
clinics are often
fellas.
quietly briefed to observe patients in the waiting room. A patient who paces back and forth for 20 minutes tells a doctor something very different than a patient who sits completely frozen, staring at the same spot on the wall. Both are red flags, just different colored ones. Psychomotor agitation is the fancy term for when your body can't sit still. Tapping feet, wringing hands, standing up and sitting down repeatedly. This pattern shows up heavily in manic episodes and severe anxiety. On the flip side, psychomotor retardation is when someone moves like they're underwater, slow to sit down, slow to look up, slow to respond when their name is called. That sluggishness is one of the physical signatures of severe depression. One psychiatrist described a patient who reorganized all the magazines in the waiting room by date twice. That patient was later diagnosed with OCD. The magazines were a free diagnostic tool. The waiting room is a one-way mirror nobody told you about.
Swablu
And this
escaped.
observation is
No one caught
reliable
it.
because you don't know the test has started yet. Number 8, how you handle silence. A doctor leans back in their chair, puts down their pen, and just looks at you, says nothing. Some people start talking immediately, filling every second of quiet like it's a hole that needs to be plugged. Others completely shut down, freezing up and staring at the floor. Both of those reactions tell the doctor something.
I
When a
gotta
doctor
stop it.
goes quiet on purpose, they're watching how you handle uncertainty. The person who rushes to fill the silence is often anxious. Their brain reads silence as a threat, like something bad is about to happen, and they need to stop it with words. The person who shuts down completely sends a different signal. That can point to depression, dissociation, or a history where speaking up felt dangerous. Their brain learned that silence is safer than words. And then there's the person who can just sit there, comfortable, not anxious, not frozen, just present. That's a sign of psychological health. Psychologists call it tolerance for ambiguity. Your brain doesn't need to control every moment to feel safe. Doctors also watch what kind of silence you produce. There is a difference between a quietness for deep thought and a quietness because you've completely disconnected from the room. Number 7, your grooming and self-care. Your hair, your clothes, your nails. All of it is being quietly logged. Doctors don't care if your outfit is fashionable. What they care about is change. Specifically, a sudden drop in how much you're taking care of yourself. One of
That's
the
me.
earliest warning signs of
That's me.
depression isn't crying. It's a person who used to shower every day suddenly not showering for a week. When the brain struggles, motivation is usually the first thing to go. Getting dressed feels pointless. Brushing your teeth feels like climbing a mountain. It's not laziness. The brain is genuinely not sending the signal that it matters anymore.
That was
Doctors
full
call this a
fucking hell.
decline in activities of daily living, and it shows up in depression, psychosis, and early cognitive decline. In dementia patients, grooming changes can appear months before memory problems become obvious. The brain starts losing its ability to sequence tasks. Brushing your teeth sounds simple, but it's a series of steps in order. When that sequencing breaks down, the task becomes impossible. Doctors also watch for the opposite extreme, someone who is obsessively groomed. That can signal anxiety disorders or OCD. It's not about looking messy, it's about a sudden shift. Number 6, abstract thinking. A doctor might ask you, how are a banana and an orange alike? You might say, they're both yellow. Not wrong, but it's a concrete answer. It's surface level. An abstract answer goes deeper. They're both fruits. That's your brain climbing up a level, seeing the bigger picture. Doctors use this to check something called abstract thinking, your ability to group things by what they mean, not just what they look like. The classic
Goodbye.
example, how are a watch and a ruler alike? A concrete answer, they both have numbers on them. The abstract answer, they're both tools for measuring things. Your brain spotted the deeper connection. That's the answer doctors want to hear. Another one, how are a fly and a tree alike? A concrete brain says, they're both outside. An abstract brain says, they're both living things. The ability to think abstractly can break down in conditions like schizophrenia or early dementia. The brain gets stuck on the surface, but sometimes people go too abstract. A watch and a ruler are both instruments of mankind's obsession with quantifying existence. Impressive, but it can also be a sign the brain is making connections that are too loose, which doctors also note. The sweet spot is right in the middle. Number 5. The pen click. A doctor clicks a pen. That's it. That's the whole test. You'd think nothing of it. But the doctor is watching you like a hawk, because how you react to that tiny sound is telling. If you have anxiety, you jump, not a little flinch. A full-body panic response, like someone just fired a starter pistol in a library. Your nervous system is a car alarm that goes off when a leaf falls on the hood. Everything is a threat. If you've been through trauma, you freeze, not jump, freeze. Like a deer in headlights, but the headlights are a ballpoint pen. Your brain hears that click and goes into emergency mode. It's scanning, checking, trying to figure out if this is safe. That half-second pause before you come back to the room, doctors notice that. And if nothing's wrong, you don't even look up. The pen clicks and your brain files it under irrelevant and moves on, like how you stop hearing your own refrigerator hum. That click was deliberate. It's a 1-second window into how your nervous system handles surprise, and your nervous system doesn't know it's being tested, so it just tells the truth. Number 4. Did you hear that? A doctor pauses mid-conversation, looks toward the wall and says, "Did you hear that?" There was no sound. They made it up, but they're watching your face very carefully. If you immediately say, "Yes, I heard it too," without hesitation, that's interesting. A healthy brain, when unsure, usually asks, "Hear what?" or looks confused. It doesn't just agree with a sound that doesn't exist. Highly suggestible people will confirm almost anything an authority figure presents. Did you hear that clicking sound? Yes, definitely, but none of it happened. Your brain filled in the blanks because someone you trust pointed at them. Extreme suggestibility can point towards certain anxiety disorders or dissociative conditions. If a clinician describes a very specific fake sound, and you not only confirm it, but add details, yeah, it's rhythmic, like a pulse, that's a bigger signal. Now your brain is actively constructing something that isn't there. That's called confabulation, and it appears in conditions like schizophrenia or certain dementias. The brain isn't lying, it genuinely believes what it's saying. The doctor is checking how your brain handles uncertainty, whether you fill the gap, ignore it, or sit with it and say, "I'm not sure." That last one is the answer that makes doctors quietly relieved. Number 3. How you describe other people. When you're venting about your coworker, your ex, or your mom, the doctor isn't just listening to the story. They're listening to how you tell it. They're checking if anyone in your life gets to be a normal, complex human being. Pattern 1. Everyone in your life is a villain. Your ex was a narcissist, your coworker is out to get you, your friends all betrayed you. When every person in your story is the bad guy, doctors start wondering about the one constant in all those stories. Pattern 2. You are always the victim, never partly responsible, never someone who also made mistakes. This is a flag for certain personality disorders, where the brain can't process the idea that you could be flawed. Pattern 3. Extreme opposites. Your new partner is perfect. Then 2 weeks later, that same person is the worst human on Earth. Doctors call this black and white thinking or splitting. Your brain has no volume dial, just mute or maximum. Pattern 4. You talk about people like they're objects, describing them in terms of what they do to you rather than who they are. None of this means you're broken. It often means something happened to you. If you grew up in an unsafe environment, your brain learned to sort people into safe and dangerous fast. It was a survival tool that doesn't turn off easily. Number 2. What you do for fun. A doctor asks, "So what do you do for fun?" It sounds like small talk. It's not. They're not trying to find out if you'd be a fun person to hang out with. They're running a test, and the answer they're most worried about is nothing. Not because having no hobbies makes you boring, but because it might mean your brain has lost the ability to feel pleasure entirely. It's called anhedonia, and it's one of the biggest red flags for major depression. Most people think depression is just feeling sad. Anhedonia is different. It's emptiness. Imagine your favorite food suddenly tasting like cardboard, or finishing a movie you used to love and feeling absolutely nothing. The things that used to light you up just don't anymore. The brain's reward system basically goes offline. It's not just about hobbies, it's how you talk about them. If you say, "I used to love painting but I haven't touched my brushes in months," that's a flag. If you say, "I play video games but I don't really enjoy it anymore, I just do it to pass the time," that's a bigger flag. The doctor also watches your face, whether your eyes light up even slightly, or whether you answer in the same flat tone you'd use to describe doing laundry. That physical reaction, or lack of it, reveals the spark that makes may have gone missing. That's what the doctor is trying to detect. Number 1, the doorknob confession. Right before you leave, the doctor asks one last question. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about today? It sounds like a polite goodbye. It's not. This is one of the most important moments of the entire visit. Doctors have a name for what happens next. The doorknob confession. Because it almost always happens right as your hand is on the doorknob. For the entire appointment, you've been under pressure, so your brain protects you. It keeps the scary stuff locked away. You talk about your knee pain, your sleep schedule, safe stuff. But then the appointment ends, the pressure drops, and that's exactly when the real thing slips out. Actually, I've been feeling really hopeless lately. I think my husband might be hurting me. Doctors are trained to watch for this moment. They know the last sentence before the door closes is often the sentence that actually matters. Research shows that in about 1 in 5 medical visits, the most important issue comes up at the very end. Saying something out loud makes it real, so your brain waits until the last possible second, until you're almost safe, almost out the door. Then it lets it go. Good doctors don't rush past this moment. They stop, they turn toward you, and they treat that last sentence like it's the first sentence. Because usually, it is. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.
Wait, where's the catapults?
Let's get right into it. Number 10, the scavenger's right reversal. Imagine being a poor fisherman on the Cornish coast in the 1700s. A ship crashes, and the beach is suddenly covered in free stuff. Barrels of wine, bolts of silk, crates of sugar. And it was completely legal to take it. An old custom called wrecker's rights meant if the sea throws something onto your beach, it's yours. Entire villages would sprint to the shore the moment a ship went down. There are records of priests stopping sermons mid-sentence to get a head start. Some communities realized if wrecks meant free stuff, more wrecks meant more free stuff, so they started causing them. On stormy nights, men would tie lanterns to horses and walk them along the cliff tops. From out at sea, a moving light looked like a lighthouse. Ships would steer toward it, thinking it was safety, and head straight into the rocks. Then, the looting began. Accounts suggest wreckers sometimes made sure no survivors were left to report what happened, because a living sailor could testify. A dead one couldn't. The government was losing a fortune. In 1753, Britain passed the Hovering Act. Suddenly, taking cargo from a wreck wasn't a coastal tradition. It was a hanging offense. The loophole that fed villages for generations was slammed shut, and the Cornish coast went back to being cold, wet, and unprofitable. Number 9, the gleaning rights repeal. In medieval Europe, if you were poor after the harvest, you could walk into the fields and pick up the scattered wheat. It was your right. This was called gleaning, a right written into law for thousands of years, even mentioned in the Bible. A skilled gleaner could collect enough grain to feed a family for months, for free. But then the agricultural revolution hit. Fields got larger, machinery got better, and landowners did the math. All that leftover grain could be sold, so they changed the definition. Suddenly, leftover crops weren't leftovers, they were property. If you picked it up, you were a thief. In 1788, an English court case, Steele versus Houghton, gutted gleaning rights, erasing centuries of tradition in a single ruling. Enforcement got brutal. Women were prosecuted for collecting handfuls of grain that would have rotted anyway. The landowners didn't want the scraps. They just didn't want the poor to have them, because if the poor could feed themselves for free, they might not be desperate enough to work for terrible wages. Gleaning wasn't just about food, it was about leverage, so they banned it. Number 8, the chimney web. In 1662, England's king needed money, so the government invented the hearth tax, based on how many fireplaces you had. The logic: rich people have more fireplaces, so they pay more. The poor had a different idea. What if one chimney didn't belong to just one house? Neighbors started connecting their flues, snaking pipes through walls to create a shared network. Imagine a chimney starting in one kitchen and venting from a roof 3 streets over. One chimney, 12 households, one tax bill split 12 ways. When inspectors came to count hearths, they walked into an architectural rat king. They'd follow a flue and it would disappear into a wall, or they'd end up in an attic on a different street. Entire neighborhoods would claim the chimney belonged to the guy 3 doors down. Nobody could prove anything. The system became unenforceable. By 1689, just 27 years after it started, the hearth tax was scrapped, killed by poor people with too many bricks and zero intention of paying a fireplace tax. Number 7, the coin melting prohibition. Imagine a $20 bill where the paper is worth $40. You'd shred it and sell the paper. That's what happened with coins. For most of history, a coin's metal was worth less than its face value, but with enough inflation, the metal inside can become worth more than the coin itself. By the 2000s, people realized the copper in a pre-1982 US penny was worth almost 2 cents. If you melted down $1,000 in pennies, you could sell the copper for nearly 2,000. It was free money if you had a furnace. People started hoarding pennies and nickels by the truckload. Coins vanished from circulation, and stores couldn't make change.
Running
The
away.
US government realized its money was being cooked on stoves. In 2006, they made it a federal crime to melt pennies or nickels, punishable by 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. But they didn't fix the inflation. Instead, years earlier in 1982, they had already changed what the coins were made of. Pennies were switched from mostly copper to mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. A zinc disc in a copper costume. They didn't make the money more valuable, they just made it cheaper. Number 6, the slow walkers. In Victorian England, being poor in public was illegal. The Vagrancy Act of 1824 made homelessness a crime, allowing police to arrest anyone found wandering without a home or job. But the people targeted found a loophole. The law punished a vagrant,
A wild
someone
leap appears
stationary
captured
or
using
aimless.
Pope
A
caps.
traveler,
Winners
however,
revealed in
was
90s.
someone moving. As long as you were walking, you were technically a traveler, not a criminal. So that's what they did. They walked all day. Groups of homeless men would walk in slow circles around the same city blocks for hours, not going anywhere, just legally existing. The police responded by arresting people for walking too slowly. A constable could simply decide a man's walking showed insufficient urgency. The whole thing became a performance. Poor men shuffling at exactly the right speed, not too fast to look suspicious, not too slow to be arrested. A precise walking pace that meant you were free. The Vagrancy Act's core provisions remained for nearly 200 years. For 2 centuries, the legal solution to
Masters of the
poverty was
Universe. I
keep
think I'm
moving.
gonna watch
Number
that.
5, the poorhouse
That movie.
garden surplus. Victorian poorhouses were built on the idea that poverty was a moral failure. Inmates were given a patch of dirt to grow food, a practice called disciplined labor, meant to keep them busy and dependent. But when you give skilled agricultural laborers a garden, they don't just grow a sad cabbage, they grow an entire operation. Inmates started producing so much food they had far more than they could eat. So they did the logical thing. They quietly sold the surplus at local markets. They were making
How did he
independent
eat?
income inside a
Fuck was
poorhouse designed to ensure they had none. When the administrators found out, they had a meltdown. The inmates had just
He was
proven 2
far away
things
from
that
that
broke the
dude,
entire
still
model.
killed him.
They weren't lazy, and given a chance, they could be
That's-
self-sufficient. This raised the uncomfortable question of why they were in a poorhouse at all. The administrators didn't ponder it for long. They banned
Lily
inmates
Green,
from
no one
gardening for
called it.
profit, often
Keep
shutting
on
down the
farming.
gardens entirely. The disciplined labor was eliminated the moment it built something more dangerous than character: financial independence. Number 4, the wet stick. In 18th century Britain, the government taxed
Yes,
candles.
it's
The
still
tax
stuck
was on
there.
tallow candles, rendered animal fat, the only light source most poor households could afford. The government was taxing light for the poor, but people didn't just sit in the dark. They figured out that a dried rush reed soaked in leftover cooking fat burned like a candle. It smelled worse and lasted only 20 minutes, but it was not legally a
Share,
candle.
eh?
It was a fat-soaked reed. No tax. Soon, poor households were making rush lights by the thousands. You'd save your bacon grease all week and dip reeds on Sunday. It was a candle factory in your kitchen, except legally it was just a wet stick. Parliament had to debate the philosophical definition of a candle. Men in powdered
go.
wigs argued about shape, wick, and material, passing new legislation to close the loophole. But the definitions were so complex that enforcement was nearly impossible. A tax collector had to determine if a family's fat-to-reed ratio was a taxable object. The rushlight became a symbol of defiance. You taxed our light, so we made our own, out of a swamp plant and last night's dinner. Number 3,
Fucking
the company store
diabolical, if you
black
ask
market.
me.
You're a coal miner in 1890s West Virginia. Your pay isn't money. It's scrip, tokens, or paper slips that only work at one place, the company store, owned by your boss. The prices were outrageous, a system designed to keep you in debt. As the song goes, I owe my soul
Son
to
of
the
a bitch
company
stole
store.
the
But
point.
miners found a loophole. A miner needing real cash would sell his scrip to a coworker at a discount, say, $1 of scrip for 70 cents. The buyer just got $1's worth of purchasing power for 70 cents. If you bought enough discounted scrip, you could buy goods in bulk from the company store and resell them to other miners for cash, at prices still lower than the stores. You could build a black market grocery inside a company town, using the company's own fake money. The mine owners were furious. They made scrip non-transferable by printing names on it. They switched to punch cards and hired clerks to recognize
Got
faces.
him.
The loophole was sealed, and it would take federal law, decades later, to finally ban the scrip system. Number 2, the graveyard garden patch. It's the 1800s. You're poor, hungry, and have no land. But down the street is a plot of perfect soil nobody is using. Well, nobody living. People started growing vegetables in graveyards. Old churchyards had everything a farmer needed: deep soil, nutrients, and privacy. The residents weren't going to complain.
Sorry,
People
I didn't
snuck in
mean
at
it.
night to plant carrots between headstones and cabbages along the back wall. One family reportedly grew enough turnips in a churchyard to survive an entire winter. The clever ones planted low-growing crops invisible from the gate. You'd walk past and see only grass and headstones, but a whole vegetable patch was hiding between the graves. The church was not happy. This was desecration of sacred ground. They put up fences and hired night watchmen to stop the vegetable
I
people.
missed.
A night watchman, guarding graves from cabbage farmers. The practice was
No,
banned once
I'm not
authorities
friends with
caught
that
on.
guy.
But these people weren't being disrespectful. They were starving. The graveyard was the only fertile land they could access. They borrowed a little soil from the dead to feed the living. Number 1. The nickel ride. It's 1914. You're a working-class guy in
Not
Los
really.
Angeles with a car. Every morning, you see people waiting for the trolley, paying a nickel to get to work. You think, I'm driving that way anyway. What if I let people hop in and charge them a nickel? Soon, thousands of drivers in cities across America are doing this.
Aye.
They were called jitneys, after slang for a nickel. It was the Uber of 1914, run by regular guys trying to make rent. They weren't breaking any laws. The law said you couldn't operate a bus without a license, but a jitney wasn't a bus. It was just a guy in a car going your way who happened to accept money. The trolley companies lost their minds. Overnight, they were hemorrhaging passengers. Why wait for a crowded trolley when a jitney would take you door to door for the same price? The trolley companies had a monopoly and political connections. They went to city
You
governments
son of
and
a gun.
screamed chaos. The city governments, deep in the pocket of the trolley companies, agreed. By 1915, cities passed laws to kill the jitney. Drivers were required to post huge insurance bonds they
You
couldn't
didn't do
afford.
much
They were
conflict
banned
today,
from
that
stopping
is
near
true.
trolley lines and forced to run fixed routes, which destroyed the entire point.
Barely
Within 2
counts
years,
this
the
day.
jitney was dead. The working class guys who found the
Come
loophole
on,
were
move a
shut
little bit to the
down,
left.
and the monopoly was restored. That's
And
all for
boom.
today. I'll be making similar
Wow,
videos in the
headshot,
future.
boy.
Subscribe to see them.
The hell was that? You.
Let's get right into it. Number 10. A grinding garage door. That grinding noise your garage door
Alrighty.
makes every morning. You've been ignoring it for months. You figured it's just old. It's not fine. A garage door weighs
Fuck
anywhere
me.
from 130 to 400 pounds. That's basically a full-grown grizzly bear hanging above your head on a metal track. And the only thing keeping that grizzly bear from dropping on you is a coiled spring under enormous tension. When that spring snaps, it doesn't quietly give up. It releases all that stored energy at once,
Man, I'm
like a
missing
giant rubber
everything.
band snapping at full stretch, except instead of stinging your wrist, it can take off a finger, or worse. The grinding sound you're hearing is the mechanical parts failing, gears wearing down, cables fraying, the whole system slowly giving up. There's no warning before it goes. One morning
Question's
it
like
grinds,
nothing,
the
mate?
next morning it just drops, full weight, no countdown, no second chance to move your foot out
What
of
am
the
I
way.
doing?
So if your garage door sounds like it's chewing gravel every time you open it, stop treating it like background noise. That's a 300-pound door telling you it's about to stop asking permission. Number 9. A dryer that sounds like it's flapping. Your dryer is making a flapping sound, like something is slapping around in there. You check inside, nothing. So
Flapping
you
or
shrug
slapping?
and walk away. Bad idea. That flapping sound is coming from the dryer vent. The vent is the tube that pushes hot, moist air out of your house. And inside that tube, lint builds up over time.
Got
Lint
him.
is basically nature's kindling. It catches fire easier than crumpled newspaper. It's so flammable that survivalists actually use
oops.
dryer lint to start campfires. And your dryer vent is packed with it. When enough lint builds up, it starts to flap around in the airflow. That's the sound you're hearing. Your dryer telling you it's getting ready to burn your house down. And dryers do burn houses down. The number one reason is lint buildup.
Sorry, buddy.
The fix is simple. Clean your dryer vent once a year, not just the little lint trap inside the door, the whole vent tube that runs to the outside of your house. That tube can get clogged with enough lint to stuff a pillow, a very flammable pillow. Number 8. A door that suddenly scrapes the floor. Your door started scraping the floor, and your first instinct is to just sand it down and move on. But that scraping sound is your house trying to tell you something. Doors don't randomly grow. When a door starts dragging, it means the frame it sits in has moved. And the two most common reasons are bad ones: moisture and foundation movement. If there's hidden moisture inside your walls or subfloor, the wood swells. The door frame swells with it, and suddenly your door scrapes. That hidden moisture means mold and rot are already having a party inside your walls. The other possibility is
Fuck.
foundation movement.
going on the
As your
right side,
foundation
folks.
shifts, shifts, the walls go with it, warping the door frame. It's like trying to put
What
a
are you
square
doing?
peg in a
He's
slightly
there.
less square hole. Foundation problems don't fix themselves. They get worse, slowly, quietly,
Can't
and very
believe it.
expensively. Look for other signs. Are there new diagonal cracks in your walls, especially running
that
from
guy?
the corners of windows and doors? Are other doors in the house starting to stick? Your house is drawing you a map of where the stress is. The scraping door isn't the problem.
Stress
It's a
pura
symptom of
here,
a much
mate.
bigger problem, and the answer is not to grab a sander. Number 7. A loud boom from the furnace. That sound your furnace makes when it kicks on, that little boom or thud from the basement, is not the house doing its thing. It's not. That boom is called delayed ignition. Your furnace is supposed to light gas the moment it starts flowing, but when something's wrong, gas keeps flowing for a few extra seconds before it ignites. Now you have a small pocket of built-up gas, and it all lights at once. That boom is a tiny explosion inside your heating system. Every time that explosion happens, it puts stress on the heat exchanger. That's the thin metal wall protecting you from the furnace's toxic exhaust. Crack that wall, and those combustion gases start mixing with the air you breathe. We're talking about carbon monoxide, the gas with no smell, no color, that can put you to sleep permanently if enough of it builds up. The fix is often simple, like cleaning a dirty burner, but ignoring that boom is not simple. It's an invitation for a much bigger problem. Number 6. Buzzing in the walls. You hear a faint buzzing coming from inside your wall. You think it's the pipes, or maybe the fridge. It's not any of those things. There is a living, breathing colony of thousands of stinging insects inside your wall right now. Wasps and bees love to build nests inside wall cavities. It's warm, it's protected, and nobody bothers them. It's basically a 5-star hotel for things that want to hurt you. A single yellow jacket nest inside a wall can hold up to 5,000 wasps. Not bees, wasps, the ones that sting you multiple times and feel absolutely nothing about it. As the nest grows, the colony starts chewing through the drywall from the inside. One day you're leaning against your wall watching TV. The next day, there's a hole in that wall, and 5,000 wasps are pouring into your living room. There are documented cases of people waking up to wasps pouring out of their electrical outlets. Just imagine reaching for your phone charger at 2 a.m. and getting a handful of that. Don't poke the wall, don't spray anything into the wall yourself, and definitely don't ignore that sound. Number 5. Popping or banging sounds from the water heater. Your water heater is not making popcorn. That popping sound you're hearing from the basement is sediment. Minerals from your water build up into a thick layer of crust at the bottom of the tank. Your water heater has to heat water through that layer. The water trapped underneath gets superheated, then it explodes through the sediment in little bursts. That's the pop. All that pressure building up inside has to go somewhere. If the pressure relief valve fails, and they do fail, the tank becomes a bomb. Not a movie bomb, a real one. In 2007, a water heater in a California home launched itself through the roof like a missile. It traveled over 500 feet into the air. Water heaters have enough stored energy to level the walls around them when they let go. First, flush your water heater once a year. There's a valve at the bottom for draining the sediment. Second, test your pressure relief valve. Lift the little lever on it. If it doesn't release water and snap back, replace it immediately. If the banging is loud and constant, stop ignoring it. That tank is telling you something, and it will not give you a second warning. Number 4. A clicking light switch. Most people flip a light switch and hear a little click. That's normal, but some people flip their switch and hear a different kind of click, a sharper one, sometimes with a little spark, and then they just go to bed. Here's what's actually happening. The wires connecting to your switch can loosen over time. When a wire is loose, electricity doesn't flow smoothly. Instead, it jumps, or arcs, across the gap, and arcing produces heat, a lot of it. The temperature of an electrical arc can reach 35,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The surface of the sun is about 10,000 degrees, so there is something hotter than the sun happening inside your wall. The reason this is so deadly is that it's invisible. The arc happens behind the switch plate. You just hear the little click. Meanwhile, the insulation around the wire is slowly burning. Electrical fires often start inside walls and spread for hours before anyone notices. By the time you smell smoke, it's already everywhere. So if your light switch clicks weird, sparks, feels warm, or flickers, stop using it. Turn off the breaker for that room and call an electrician today. Number 3. A buzzing that stops when you touch an appliance. You touch your washing machine and the buzzing stops. You think, oh good, I fixed it. You didn't fix it. You are it. That buzzing means the appliance has an electrical fault. The reason it stopped when you touched it is because electricity found a new path through you. You just became a human ground wire. The buzzing stopped because the electricity is now flowing through your hand, up your arm, and into the floor. You are quietly getting electrocuted. Most of the time, this feels like a mild tingle. What usually saves people is that the shock makes their muscles contract and they pull away. But if you're gripping something, That same muscle contraction can make you grip tighter. This is called no let go current. You can't let go even if you want to. The amount of current that can stop your heart is tiny, less than it
I
takes
always
to
hear,
power
like,
a small light bulb. The
ringing
buzzing means
sound
the insulation
on
on
the
a wire inside has worn down, and that
volume
exposed
is-
wire is now energizing the metal body of the appliance. Unplug it. Don't touch it again. Call someone who knows what they're doing. Number 2, a constant running water sound. You hear water running, you check the
you
sink,
escaped
nothing.
me,
You check the
but no.
shower, nothing. Every faucet in the house is off, but the sound is still there. Most people shrug and go back to watching TV, but that sound might be coming from under your feet, from under the concrete foundation your entire house is sitting on. It's called a slab leak. A pipe buried under your foundation is broken, and it's quietly bleeding water right under your house, 24 hours a day. All that water eats away at the soil supporting your foundation, and when the soil disappears, the concrete above it has nothing to stand on. That's how sinkholes form, not in some random field.
far away.
Under your living room, the floor might look completely fine right up until it isn't. Next time you hear water running and can't find it, walk around and feel your floors for warm spots. Leaks from hot water pipes make the floor above them warm. Then, turn off every single water source in your house and go check your water meter. If it's still moving, water is going somewhere it shouldn't be. Call a plumber that day, because the
very
longer a
next
slab
day,
leak runs, the more of your
bum,
foundation
bum,
quietly
ba-dum.
disappears. Number 1, the hiss behind your walls.
Swear.
So you're sitting on your couch and you hear it, a soft hiss coming from inside your wall. You think it's probably the pipes or the house settling. It's not. That hiss is
A
a
wild
gas line
primate appears
slowly
captured
leaking,
using
natural
poke
gas
catch,
seeping out,
winners revealed in
filling up the
90s.
empty spaces in your home. Quietly, patiently. You can't see it. You won't smell it at first.
Aye.
Natural gas is actually odorless. The rotten egg smell is an additive gas companies put in so you have a warning. But by the time that smell is strong enough to notice, the gas has already been building up. Your house is now a balloon filled with explosive gas, and all it needs is one spark, one light switch, one phone charger clicking on, one person deciding this is a great time to make toast, and your house stops being a house. The hiss is easy to miss. It sounds almost identical to air coming through a vent or water moving through pipes, except this one ends with a crater where your kitchen used to be. If you hear a hiss coming
Okay,
from
I
your
got
wall,
stuff.
do
I'm
not
big.
touch anything electrical. Don't flip a light switch. Don't unplug something. Don't even use your phone inside the house. Get outside first. Leave the door open on your way out. Then call the gas company from a safe distance. The people who don't make it out are the ones who stop to investigate. Don't be that
Be
person.
on
That's all
you.
for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.
Game. This game.
Let's get right into it. Number 10, drinking coffee first thing in the morning. You wake up, stumble to the kitchen, and make coffee, but your body already made its own coffee this morning. It's called cortisol. Right after you wake up, your brain floods your body with it. Cortisol is your body's built-in energy drink. It sharpens your focus, wakes up your organs, and gets you ready to function.
Primate escaped.
So when you pour
No one caught
actual
it.
coffee on top of that, your body goes, oh, we're getting caffeine from outside now. Cool, I'll just stop making my own. Over time, your
sorry.
body can become less sensitive to its own cortisol. Now you need the coffee just to feel normal. You're not getting a boost anymore. You're just paying rent on a feeling you used to get for free. It's like showing up to a party that's already going great and blasting an air horn. You didn't improve the party. You just made everyone's ears ring. Wait 90 minutes after waking up before your first cup. Let the cortisol do its job first. Then the caffeine actually hits on top of
Nice how
something
cool
instead
the
of
weather
replacing
is.
it. People who
Really.
do this say their coffee
Really nice
suddenly
and
feels
cool.
like it works
I'm
again,
leaving.
like the first time they ever had it. Number 9, breathing through your mouth. You are slowly reshaping your face right now, and you don't even know it. If your mouth is hanging open while you watch this, close it. Seriously, close it. Your jaw is not a fixed structure. It's more like clay. It responds to pressure and position over time. When you breathe through your mouth, your tongue drops to the floor of your mouth instead of pressing against the roof. That tongue pressure is what helps your jaw grow forward and wide. No pressure, no push, and your jaw can slowly get longer and narrower. Scientists have a name for this look. They call it adenoid face. Long face, weak chin, slightly open mouth, tired eyes. You've seen it. Mouth breathing at night drops your blood oxygen
So
levels.
you can
Lower
actually see
oxygen
with a
means
mouth
worse
breather,
sleep
mate.
quality. Worse sleep quality means you wake up tired even after 8 hours. You think you slept, your brain disagrees. It also dries out your throat, which makes snoring worse. During the day, lips together, teeth slightly apart, tongue resting on the roof of your mouth. That position is is called correct oral posture. It has a fancy name because orthodontists charge a lot of money to fix the problems caused by not doing it. You just learned it for free. Number 8, the grayscale doom scroll. Your phone is a slot machine, not metaphorically, literally. The red notification bubbles, the bright blue likes, none of that is an accident. Teams of engineers spent years figuring out exactly which colors make your brain release dopamine, and they nailed it. The average person picks up their phone 96 times a day. That's once every 10 minutes. And most of those times, you didn't even decide to pick it up. Your hand just did it, like a reflex. Except blinking doesn't make you miss an hour of your life. Here's the fix. Go to your accessibility settings. Search grayscale or color filters. Turn it on. 5 seconds. Now your phone looks like it's from the 1950s. Flat, deeply unexciting. That Instagram photo of someone's brunch, gray eggs, gray avocado, suddenly you don't care. That YouTube thumbnail with the guy making the shocked face, in grayscale he just looks tired. Same face, zero urgency. Your brain is chasing color. Take away the color, and you take away most of the phone's power over you. Studies have shown people who switch to grayscale can reduce their daily screen time by up to 40 minutes. That's 10 days a year you get back, just from making your phone ugly. Number 7, the browser tab massacre. You have 83 tabs open. Each one is a tiny broken promise you made to yourself. I'll read this later. Later never came. That tab about the history of Byzantine architecture is still open. From March, that recipe for homemade sourdough you were definitely going to make is still there, judging you. That Wikipedia article you opened at 2 a.m. for reasons you can no longer explain is still open, waiting. Every open tab is what psychologists call an open loop. Your brain registers each one as unfinished business, and your brain hates unfinished business. It keeps a little mental sticky note for every single one of them. That's 83 sticky notes screaming at you at the same time. This is called the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain burns mental energy on unfinished tasks. So those 83 tabs aren't just sitting there quietly, they're actively draining your focus. And your actual computer agrees. Each tab eats up memory and processing power. With dozens open, you're slowing your computer to a crawl just to store articles you'll never read. Right-click, close other tabs. 5 seconds, done. The world will not end. The sourdough will not be missed. The Byzantine architects have been dead for 600 years. They can wait. If something was actually important, you would have read it already. Bookmark one thing if you feel guilty. Just one. Then close everything else and feel what happens. That weird feeling is called relief. Number 6, the tiny dusty camera lens. Your photos look terrible. Not because you have bad lighting. Not because you need a better phone. Your lens is just disgusting. Think about where your phone lives, your pocket, your bag. It picks up oil, dust, and fingerprints all day long, and then you pull it out to take a photo of something beautiful, and it looks like you shot it through a greasy window in 1987. That birthday cake photo is blurry and hazy. That sunset you drove 45 minutes to see looks like a watercolor painting made by someone who gave up halfway through. The lens on your phone is about the size of a small pea. A tiny amount of grease from your finger completely covers it, and your brain is so used to seeing bad photos that you just accept it. You think that's just how your camera looks. It's not. Wipe it on your shirt right now. 5 seconds. Open your camera and look at something. The difference is genuinely shocking. You've been walking around with a dirty window over your memories this whole time. Number 5, sitting on your wallet. Every time you sit down with a wallet in your back pocket, you're building a tiny ramp under one side of your hip. One hip goes up, the other goes down. Your spine tilts like a sinking ship, and you hold that position for hours. At your desk, in your car. Imagine putting a small rock under one leg of your chair and then sitting in it for 8 hours straight. That's what you're doing to your spine every single day. Your lower back muscles are constantly fighting to keep you upright. They're working overtime, and they're losing. The result is back pain, hip pain, and something called wallet sciatica. Yes, that's a real thing doctors actually named. The wallet presses on your sciatic nerve, which runs right through that area. So your wallet is basically a tiny rectangular villain slowly numbing your entire lower body. Chiropractors love this habit. It keeps them in business. Move your wallet to your front pocket, or better yet, get a slim card holder. You don't need receipts from 2019 or loyalty cards for restaurants that have closed down. Thin it out, move it forward. Number 4, the face tension you don't notice. Your jaw is clenched right now. Go ahead and check. Most people who just heard that unclenched their jaw for the first time in hours. Your brain treats stress like a physical threat, so your body does what bodies do when a lion is chasing them. It tightens everything up. Jaw, shoulders, forehead. The problem is, your brain can't tell the difference between a lion and a passive-aggressive email from your boss. So you spend hours at a desk looking like you're about to fight someone, and the tension feeds the stress back into your brain. It's a loop. You're basically scaring yourself with your own face. Dentists call the grinding bruxism. About 10% of people do it so hard in their sleep that they crack their own teeth. Not
shit.
chip,
Did I
crack.
just kill
your
my
body is
teammate?
trying to fight
Sorry,
something
dude.
in your
Sorry,
sleep,
mate.
and your teeth are losing. The fix takes 5 seconds. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Unclench your jaw. Let your tongue fall from the roof of your mouth. Your teeth should not be touching when your mouth is at rest. That's the correct position. Teeth apart, lips together. It signals to your nervous system that the lion is gone. You can stop being a fist now. Number 3, the streaming service Autoplay Abyss. You just finished an episode. The credits are rolling, and that little countdown timer appears in the corner. 5, 4, 3, you don't move. And just like that, you're watching a show you never chose. Netflix, Hulu, all of them designed that autoplay feature specifically to remove the moment where you decide to stop. The hardest part of binge watching isn't watching, it's stopping. So they quietly removed your chance to stop. Regulators have called this a dark pattern, meaning it's an interface designed to work against your best interests. It replaces a natural ending with an artificial beginning, and your brain, which was already relaxed, just follows along. 3 hours later, you're on season 4 of something you don't even like, and you have to be up in 6 hours. The fix takes literally 5 seconds. Every single streaming service has an option to turn off autoplay. It's buried in the settings, obviously, but it's there. Find it, turn it off. Now, when an episode ends, the screen just sits there, quietly, waiting for you to make a decision like an adult. That pause is everything. That pause is where you remember you have a life outside this couch. Number 2, writing a wrong picture. There's a picture on your wall. It's crooked. It's been crooked since you hung it up 6 months ago. Every single time you walk past it, some tiny part of your brain screams, not loudly, just a little whisper of "that's wrong," and then you keep walking. It happens again tomorrow, and the day after that. Scientists call this a low-grade stressor. It's not dramatic enough to feel important, but it's annoying enough to chip away at you every single day. Think of it like a dripping faucet in your brain. One drip doesn't matter, but 1,000 drips a day for 6 months? That's a flood. This whole problem goes away in 5 seconds. Walk over, tilt the frame, and your brain stops screaming. The dripping stops, and you get that tiny but very real hit of satisfaction. Researchers call this a completion reward. Your brain releases a small amount of dopamine when you fix an unfinished thing. So you're not just removing an annoyance, you're actively making yourself feel better.
I thought.
Fix the picture. It takes 5 seconds. Number 1, the designated key bowl. You will spend a cumulative week of your life looking for your keys. Not a metaphorical week. A literal, actual 7 days of your one and only life. Gone. Spent on your hands and knees checking under the couch cushions. And the worst part is, you do this every single time. You lose them, find them, feel relieved, and then lose them again tomorrow. Like a goldfish that keeps being surprised by the same castle in its tank. The fix takes 5 seconds. Pick a spot, a bowl by the door, a hook on the wall, a specific corner of the table. It genuinely does not matter. When you walk in, keys go there. Every single time. Not most times. Not when you remember. Every time. The reason this works is it removes the decision. When you get home, your brain is already thinking about dinner or your phone. Keys get set down wherever your hand happens to be. Different spot every day. The bowl creates muscle memory for not ruining your morning. It's not just the 5 minutes of searching. It's the panic. The cortisol spike at 8:47 a.m. The way that frantic energy follows you into your entire day. You arrive stressed. You stay stressed. All because of where you put a small piece of metal the night before. 5 seconds when you walk in. Saves you a week of your life. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.
Holy.
Let's get right into it. Number 10, the U-2 spy plane. In 1960, the US government was flying a spy plane deep over Soviet territory, taking secret photos of military bases. Then the plane got shot down. The government's first move? Lie. They told the world it was a weather research aircraft from NASA. The pilot was just studying air turbulence at high altitudes. Very important turbulence. Soviet turbulence, specifically. Some of the most strategically valuable turbulence on Earth. There was just one problem. The Soviets had recovered the plane, the cameras, the film, and the pilot, Francis Gary Powers, who was alive and talking. They put Powers on trial on live television in front of the entire world. The US had no choice but to admit everything. President Eisenhower personally confirmed the spy flights, the first time a sitting US president had ever admitted to running a secret espionage program against another country. A peace summit between the US and the Soviets collapsed immediately, and the government got a masterclass in what happens when your cover story is dumber than the thing you're covering up. Number 9. The FBI Crime Lab scandal. For decades, prosecutors waved FBI forensic evidence in front of juries like it was handed down from God. The science says so. Case closed. Except the science was often wrong. In 2015, the Justice Department admitted that FBI forensic analysts had been giving flawed testimony in court cases for over 2 decades. The issue was hair analysis. FBI analysts testified they could match hair samples to specific people with near certainty. Turns out they couldn't. The science behind it was basically, this hair looks like that hair. Out of 268 cases they reviewed where FBI analysts testified against a defendant, 257 had flawed testimony. That's 96% of the time. But in court, that science was sending people to prison. Some were on death row. At least 14 of them had already been executed or died in prison by the time the FBI admitted the problem. The FBI's response was essentially to say they were working to improve, which is a calm thing to say after admitting your lab helped put innocent people away. Jurors trust forensic science. You say FBI lab results, and they stop questioning it. Except this was a lie that cost people their lives. Number 8. Operation Fast and Furious. In 2009, the ATF came up with a plan to stop illegal gun trafficking. Their idea was to let criminals buy guns illegally in the US, then track those guns to Mexican cartel leaders. It was like putting a GPS on a pizza to find the restaurant, except the pizza was an assault rifle. They lost track of about 1,400 guns, a full armory. Those guns started showing up at crime scenes on both sides of the border. One of them was found at the murder scene of a U.S. Border Patrol agent named Brian Terry in 2010. When Congress started asking questions, the Justice Department sent a letter in February 2011 flatly denying it. The letter said the ATF had never allowed guns to walk into the hands of criminals. That was a lie. 10 months later, they had to formally retract the letter. Attorney General Eric Holder was held in contempt of Congress for refusing to turn over documents. The government had to admit that yes, the program was real, yes, it went horribly wrong, and yes, they lied about it. The agency in charge of stopping illegal weapons was secretly the one giving them out. Number 7. Project Sunshine. Imagine your neighbor borrows your lawnmower without asking. Annoying. Now imagine instead of a lawnmower, it was your dead baby. That's basically Project Sunshine. After World War II, the US government wanted to know what radioactive fallout did to human bones, so they needed bones to study. The problem was, nobody was lining up to donate their skeleton, so they just took them. Starting in the 1950s, government scientists worked with hospitals and morgues around the world. When someone died, especially infants, body parts would be removed before burial. Legs, ribs, whole vertebrae. The families had no idea. They'd bury what they thought was a complete body. The government wanted babies because their growing bones absorbed radioactive material faster, making them the most useful. Over 1,500 bodies were secretly sampled. This was organized, government-funded, and completely hidden for decades. The government didn't officially acknowledge Project Sunshine until 1995, about 40 years of silence. When they finally admitted it, the explanation was basically, we needed the data, and we got it. A very polite way of saying they treated grieving families like an organ warehouse. Number 6. The Guatemalan syphilis experiments. In the 1940s, American doctors went to Guatemala to deliberately infect people with syphilis, without telling them. They wanted to test if penicillin worked, but the way they went about it was monstrous. It targeted soldiers, prisoners, and mental health patients. They'd scrape the skin of patients and pour syphilis bacteria into the wound. Sometimes they injected it straight into their spines. Roughly 1,300 people were infected without their knowledge or consent. The records were buried, and the experiments were kept secret for over 60 years. It was only uncovered in 2010 by a medical historian who stumbled across the files. The admission was swift. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton personally called the president of Guatemala to apologize. President Obama called it clearly unethical. The victims and their families tried to sue the U.S. government, but a judge dismissed the case, ruling that U.S. laws don't cover what happens to foreign citizens in other countries. So the official position is, yes, we did it. Yes, it was wrong. No, we're not paying for it. Number 5. Gulf War illness. Hundreds of thousands of veterans came home from the 1991 Gulf War with debilitating symptoms, chronic fatigue, headaches, memory loss, and nerve damage. When they went to the government for help, they were told the problem was in their heads. For years, officials called it stress. During the war, soldiers were exposed to a toxic cocktail, smoke from burning
Baba.
oil wells, pesticides, and plumes of nerve
wonder if I
agents
should
like
learn
sarin,
while I'm
released when
streaming.
U.S. forces destroyed Iraqi
Maybe
ammo
not.
depots.
I'm working
Government
tomorrow
knew
like
this
8
happened,
hours,
but for
so
years the official
I'll
position
go
was that
turn
no
on there
American
and
troops
just-
had been exposed to chemical weapons. Full stop.
Any
The
cool
line
them.
changed over time. First, no evidence of exposure. Then, levels were too low to cause harm. Then, we need more studies. Government language for, we hope you get tired of asking. In 1996, the Pentagon finally admitted that up to 100,000 soldiers may have been exposed to nerve agents. It took until the early 2000s for a research committee to officially conclude that Gulf War illness was a real physical condition caused by chemical exposure, an admission that came after a decade of telling sick veterans their suffering wasn't real. Number 4, Camp Lejeune poisoning. For about 35 years, the people living and working at the Marine
Floyd
Corps base
Mayweather.
Camp Lejeune were drinking poison. The water was contaminated with industrial solvents like TCE and PCE, chemicals you'd use to strip paint off a car engine. The contamination started in the 1950s. The Marines knew by the early 1980s. They shut down the contaminated wells in 1985 and then said nothing to the people who had already been drinking it for decades. We're talking about Marines, their spouses, their children. Babies were being bottle-fed with this water. Veterans and their families started getting sick. Leukemia, bladder cancer, kidney cancer. Government didn't just stay quiet. They actively fought the victims. The official position was, prove it. Proving it was nearly impossible because the government controlled the records, some of which conveniently went missing. The official acknowledgement finally came around 2012, 60 years after the contamination started. In 2022, Congress passed the PACT Act, allowing families to file claims. The estimated number of people exposed was up to 1 million. For decades, the government's strategy was denial. Number 3, the death of Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman was an NFL star who walked away from a $3.6 million contract after 9/11 to join the Army. In 2004, the Army announced he was killed in action in Afghanistan, charging up a hill in a firefight. They gave him a Silver Star. His funeral was a national event. America had its hero. Every part of that story was a lie. Pat Tillman was killed by his own men, friendly fire, and the Army knew it within days, long before the funeral and the medal. They just decided not to mention it. They burned his personal journal and uniforms at the scene, which they later called standard procedure. His mother spent years demanding documents and fighting the military bureaucracy. Eventually, Congress got involved. The official justification for the cover-up was that the truth might hurt morale. They needed a recruiting poster, and the complex reality was inconvenient. What made it messier was that Tillman himself was privately against the Iraq War. The man they turned into the face of the war effort didn't even support it. The Army eventually admitted the friendly fire, but his family never got the full truth. Number 2, September 11th air safety. On September 12th, 2001, the air around Ground Zero was a toxic cloud of asbestos, lead, mercury, and pulverized concrete, and the government got on TV and said the air was safe to breathe. That was a lie. On September 18th, the Environmental Protection Agency released an official statement saying the air quality was safe, but internal documents later revealed that the White House had directly pressured the EPA to release reassuring statements. The President's Council on Environmental Quality edited press releases, removing warnings that the EPA's own scientists had not approved. The reason? Wall Street needed to reopen. So thousands of first responders and cleanup workers went back to work, breathing that air every day. They started getting sick. Cancers, lung diseases, neurological disorders. The number of first responders and survivors who have died from September 11th related illnesses has now surpassed the number of people killed on the day of the attack. In 2003, the EPA's own Inspector General confirmed the White House had influenced the safety announcements. Christine Todd Whitman, the EPA head who made the announcement, later said she was given bad information. The people who got sick had to spend years begging Congress for healthcare funds because of the official lie they were told. Number 1, PRISM and the Snowden leaks. The government looked you dead in the eye and said they were not spying on you, not on your emails, your calls, your messages, never. Then a man named Edward Snowden proved they were. Snowden was an NSA contractor who revealed a program called PRISM. The NSA had set up a system giving them direct access to the servers of Google, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft. They were collecting emails, search histories, photos, and video calls, not just from terrorists, from regular people, from you. Just months before Snowden's leak, the director of national intelligence, James Clapper, was asked in a Senate hearing, "Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions of
Oh, no,
Americans?" Clapper looked the
especially
senator in the eye and said, "No, sir." When the documents came out, the story changed overnight. The new version was, "Okay, we do collect data, but only metadata." Then, "Okay, we have the content too, but only for foreigners." Then, "Okay, Americans got caught up in it,
No
but only
friends,
accidentally."
please.
Each time they were caught in a bigger lie, they just swapped it for a slightly smaller one. Clapper, the man who lied to Congress under oath, was never charged with perjury. He retired with his full pension. Snowden, the man who told you the truth, had to flee to Russia and has been branded a traitor. The man who lied to your face faced no consequences. The man who told you the truth lost everything. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them. Let's get right into it. Number 10. The
Get right
airline that
into
refused to hide the price. Think about the last time you booked a flight. You saw a cheap price, you clicked it, and then the fees started. The seat selection fee, the baggage fee, the fee for having legs. By the end, you paid almost double. There was an airline that refused to do that to you. It was called EOS Airlines. EOS flew between New York and London,
That's good.
and their whole pitch was simple. One price, everything included. No surprises. Every seat was a wide, lie-flat business
My
class
leg, man.
seat with meals, with bags included. The price they showed you was the price you paid. But budget airlines had figured out a trick. Show a low number up front, make you feel like you're winning, then slowly add the real cost back in, one fee at a time. It's called drip pricing, and it works because our brains lock onto that first number we see. EOS didn't play that game. Their price looked
Is it
higher
trying
up
to
front,
yield?
even though it was often the same or less in the end. But customers weren't doing the math. They were just clicking the cheaper looking number. In 2008, EOS Airlines shut down. The airline that treated you like an adult couldn't survive in a market that rewarded the ones that didn't. Number 9. Sears kills its own honest division. Sears, the giant department store, also had auto repair shops. And for a while, one division of those shops was doing something radical. They were telling customers the truth. You'd bring your car in,
Hey.
they'd look at it, and if nothing was wrong, they'd say, "Nothing is wrong," and send you on your way. The problem was that the rest of the Sears auto locations had a different business model. Find something wrong, whether it's wrong or not. California caught them doing this in 1992. Undercover investigators brought in perfectly fine cars. Sears recommended an average of $235 in unnecessary repairs on every single visit. Brakes that didn't need replacing, shocks that were fine. The state called it systematic
die here.
consumer fraud. The honest division wasn't shut down because it was failing customers. It was shut down because it was failing corporate. The locations that were being straight with people weren't hitting their upsell
Map
numbers.
has
And in a
two
company
named
that runs on
location
quarterly
multi-fields and
targets,
gear
honesty is a
floors.
performance issue. So they killed it. The fraud scandal ended up doing far more damage to Sears than any honest
I think
repair
I'm
shop
gonna
ever
learn
could have.
some
But honesty
tomorrow
didn't
morning.
fit the spreadsheet. Number 8. The video game publisher that refused loot boxes.
So,
In the 2010s, the gaming industry discovered it could make more money selling random digital items in virtual boxes than selling actual games, loot boxes, digital
Oh,
slot
Steam
machines. Publishers were making billions a year from them, but a mid-sized publisher called Gazillion Entertainment, who made the game Marvel Heroes, said no. Their CEO publicly called loot boxes predatory. He pointed out that they exploit kids and people with gambling disorders, and said his company wasn't going to build its business on that. Investors
the
did not
ungodly
find this
French.
inspiring. The
Agree,
companies
kill
using
them
loot
all.
boxes were making incomprehensibly more money. A free-to-play game with aggressive loot boxes could generate 10 times the revenue of a traditional one. So when Gazillion said, "We're not doing that," investors heard, "We are choosing to make 10 times less money on principle." And investors are not in the business of funding principles. Without fresh capital, Gazillion couldn't keep up. In November 2017, Gazillion Entertainment shut down completely.
I
Marvel
died.
Heroes went offline. Hundreds of employees lost their jobs. Gazillion didn't lose because they made a bad game. They lost because they refused to turn their game into a casino. Number 7. The airline that didn't charge bag fees. Midwest Express Airlines.
So what
You've
do we do
probably
now?
never heard
You
of
and
them,
me.
and that's the point. Back when other airlines were figuring out how to squeeze every dollar out of
Getting
you,
tired.
Midwest was doing the opposite. They flew with 2 wider seats on each side of the aisle, not 3. They gave you more leg room than you'd get in business class on other airlines today.
No,
And they
estoy
served
escuchando.
freshly baked chocolate chip cookies, warm, on every single
Oh.
flight. No bag fees, no nickel and diming. The ticket price was the ticket price. They were voted best U.S. airline multiple years in a row by actual passengers. Then the early 2000s happened. 9/11 hit the industry hard, and fuel prices spiked. The big carriers made a decision. Bag fees became standard around 2008. If your competitor is making $3 billion a year in bag fees, and you're making 0, Chicago, you are at a massive financial disadvantage. Midwest
My
Express tried to hold
favorite
on, but they were a
spot.
small airline competing against
My
giants who had found a
favorite
legal way to print
spot.
money. By 2009, they were forced to merge, and the name and service disappeared. The bag fee industry now generates over $6 billion a year. That's not revenue from flying you anywhere. That's from charging you to bring your stuff. Midwest Express looked at that model, said no, and the market said, okay, then you don't get to exist. Number 6, the search engine that did not spy on you. Imagine a coffee shop where the coffee is free, but the barista writes down everything you say and sells your conversations to strangers. That is Google.
Really?
Now imagine a different coffee shop
Really?
opens. It charges you $5 for the coffee, but in return, nobody writes anything down. That was Neva. Neva was a search engine launched in
What is this
2021
lag?
by Sridhar Ramaswamy.
Wait, what is this
He
lag?
spent 15 years at Google
my
running their ads business. He knew exactly how the machine worked, and he decided he did not want to build it again. So Neva charged users a small monthly fee. For that fee,
Weird.
you got a search engine with no ads, no tracking, and no selling your data. Just clean, honest search results. But Google is free, and Neva could never convince enough people that free has a hidden price tag. People looked at $5 a month and free and made their choice. In 2023, Neva shut down. The founders wrote that the hardest problem was not building the technology. It was convincing people that the thing they were getting for free was actually expensive. So the honest coffee shop
I'm stuck.
closed, and everyone went back to the place
Okay,
where the
I
barista
think,
never stops taking notes. Number 5, the honest auto repair shop. There's a type of auto repair shop that most people have never experienced. You bring your car in, they look at it, fix the one thing that was wrong, charge you for that one thing, and you leave. No, while we were in there, we
Battery going
noticed
up
your
there.
flux capacitor is leaking. Just the repair you asked for. These shops existed. Past tense. Here's how a normal repair shop often works. You come in with a problem, and the mechanic goes on a treasure hunt through your car. And somehow, he always finds gold. Suddenly your transmission fluid is
Wait,
low,
what?
and your serpentine belt is about to snap. A scared customer spends more than a calm one. Tell someone their car is fine. They pay you $80. Tell them it's one pothole away from total engine failure, and they'll hand you $800. The honest shops couldn't compete with that math. Landlords raised rents, and a shop that only charged for what was actually broken couldn't generate enough revenue to survive, so they closed. You can't leave a bad review for a fake problem you never found out was fake. The dishonest shop's customers have no idea they're being robbed. A customer
get
who
him.
doesn't know they're being robbed is a happy customer, and happy customers leave good reviews. It's a perfect
Hey,
system.
B
Number
guy.
4, the car too safe to survive. It's 1948. A guy named Preston Tucker decides to build the safest car ever made, the Tucker 48. Most cars back then were death traps, no
I don't know how
seatbelts,
to pronounce
hard
it.
steel dashboards, and steering columns that would impale you in a crash. The Tucker 48 was different. It had a padded dashboard, a windshield designed to
A
pop
wild
out
spew
instead
perp
of
here's catch
shattering
it
into
using
your face,
post
a
catch.
center
Winners
headlight that
revealed in
turned with the
90s.
steering wheel so you could see around corners. The engine was in the back, giving you a huge crumple zone in a front-end collision. This car was decades ahead of its time. Ford,
Be
General
top of
Motors, and
leaderboard.
Chrysler
Heck.
looked at the Tucker 48 and panicked. If this car went mainstream, their own cars would look like what they were, dangerous. So they allegedly used their influence in Washington.
Exactly.
The Securities and Exchange Commission launched a high-profile investigation into Tucker for fraud. He was eventually acquitted on all charges, but the damage was done. The negative press scared off investors. The factory was shut down, and the company collapsed. Only 51 Tucker 48s were ever built. The car that was too safe to survive is now one of the most sought-after collector cars in the
What the
world. Number
fuck
3,
is
the
lag
bank that
again?
did not cause the crash. In the mid-2000s, banks were handing out mortgages like confetti. Did not matter if you could pay it back. They gave people loans they knew were toxic, bundled them up,
Okay.
and sold them to investors. But there was a small community bank in Chicago called Shore Bank. They looked at what every other bank was doing and said no. They refused to write predatory loans. While other banks were gambling, Shore Bank was carefully serving low-income communities. Then, 2008 happened. The banks that gambled with everyone's houses came crashing down. The government handed them billions of dollars to survive. Shore Bank did not gamble and did not crash, but the neighborhoods it served got destroyed by the recession. The people Shore Bank had given responsible loans to suddenly lost their jobs and could not pay. Shore Bank started bleeding money. They asked the big Wall Street banks,
No one called
the
it.
same ones who had just received massive bailouts, for help? The answer was no. In 2010, Shorebank was shut down
shit.
by regulators. The bank that
use it.
refused to scam anyone was wiped out by the mess created by the banks that
Got
scammed
friend
everyone.
zoned.
And those banks are still here, bigger than ever. Number 2, the email service that chose suicide. Imagine an email service where the entire point is that your emails are yours. Nobody can read them. Not
sorry.
hackers, not advertisers, not
sorry
even the
if I
company
got called
itself.
you brother,
That was
so for
LavaBit,
you,
a
mate.
secure email service built by Ladar Levison. By 2013, it had around 400,000 users. One of those users was Edward Snowden. After the Snowden leaks,
I'm
the
on the
US
swing.
government came to LavaBit with a court order demanding the master encryption key to the entire system, not just for Snowden's emails, for all 400,000 users. Ladar said no. The government came back harder. They threatened him with massive daily fines and hit him with a gag order, meaning he couldn't even warn his users what was
Sorry, buddy.
happening. He faced a choice: betray every single person who trusted him, or burn the whole thing down. He burned it down. On August 8, 2013, LavaBit shut its doors completely. Ladar posted a message saying he refused to
Okay,
become
what the fuck is
complicit
happening?
in crimes against the American people. When he was legally forced to hand over the key before shutting down,
Did I just kill
he printed it
Ferox?
out in tiny 4-point
God.
font across 11 pages
like
of
the
paper,
second best
thousands
play
of
ever.
characters,
Sorry, mate.
technically compliant, practically useless. He lost his business, his income, and spent years in legal battles, all because he refused to hand over the key to 400,000 people's private lives. Number 1, the car company that was too nice. General Motors had a problem in the 1980s. Japanese cars were eating them alive, so they did something radical. They decided to be honest. In 1985, General Motors launched
Like this
Saturn
guy,
as a
he's
separate
just-
company. New factories, new culture, and one rule that changed everything: no haggling. The price on the window was the price you paid. Salespeople weren't paid on commission, so they didn't pressure you. They just helped you. The experience was so pleasant, Saturn owners became fans. They would wave to each other on the highway. They formed clubs. In 1994, Saturn invited owners to the factory in Spring Hill, Tennessee. 44,000 people showed up just to see where their car was made. When Saturn discovered a batch of cars had faulty coolant, they didn't just issue a recall. They called every single owner and replaced their car with a brand new one. By the 90s, Saturn had the highest customer satisfaction scores in the industry, beating Toyota, beating Honda, and that's when General Motors got nervous. Saturn was proving that the rest of General Motors' dealerships
chance,
were
mate.
manipulative and unpleasant. So General Motors slowly strangled it. They cut its budget. They stopped letting it
1 minute,
develop its
30
own unique
seconds.
cars and forced it to sell rebadged versions of other General Motors models, defeating the entire point. By 2009, General Motors pulled the plug. Saturn showed them the answer was to treat people like adults. General Motors looked at the results, said, "Interesting," and deleted the experiment. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.
All over the place, guys. All over the place.
Let's get right into it. Number 10, Pythagoras. You know Pythagoras as the triangle guy from math class, but he was also running a full-blown cult. His followers worshipped numbers,
Dad.
believing they had magical powers. The number 10 was their holy symbol.
Oh,
And their
I really
weirdest
gotta-
rule,
really gotta
no
do something.
beans. Pythagoras
Come
was
on, bro,
convinced that beans contained the souls of the dead. Every time you
Easy.
ate a bean, you were eating someone's grandma. Legend says he was chased by enemies to the edge of a bean field. He refused to run through it, so they caught and killed him. He chose death over beans. His cult had other bizarre rules. Don't
Good
stir
job,
a
mate.
fire with iron, and if you left your bed, you had to immediately mess up the sheets so no one could see your body's impression.
Any
We
of
don't
those
actually know
foxes
if Pythagoras
dodging
discovered
after
the
it.
Pythagorean
Space
theorem.
Lanny
The
should be
Babylonians
orbiting
were
your
using
real
that
limit.
exact math 1,000 years before he was
Sounds sick.
born. So the man who banned beans and worshipped numbers probably didn't even discover the theorem we named after him. Number 9, George Washington. Washington's wooden teeth are in every history book, and they're completely made up. His real dentures were far worse, a mix of metal, ivory, and human teeth pulled
Listen.
from actual mouths. He bought those teeth from enslaved people at Mount Vernon. Records from 1784
All right.
show payments for 9 teeth. These were people he owned, with no real choice in the matter. The wooden teeth myth was a cleaner story, one that didn't involve the father of the nation wearing teeth pulled from people he enslaved. So that's the story that stuck. The dentures fit poorly, pushing his lips out, and giving him a permanently uncomfortable expression. It explains why in almost every portrait he looks like he's trying not to scream. Number 8. Benjamin Franklin. You know him as the wise old man on the $100 bill, the kite flyer, the founding father. In 1998,
Pretty
workers
raid.
renovating Franklin's
Actually,
old
no
London
raid.
home
No
found
one's
bones in the
watching.
basement. Not a few, the remains of
Cool.
15 bodies, 10 of them children, buried under the floor. The house was also home to Franklin's friend, William Hewson, a surgeon running